morning to some of you. I hope you can hear me. So let me start with a story. Nitin, you can't hear me? Can you hear me? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jyoti. Okay, let me start with a story. So there was this monk who was sleeping, and suddenly he was rudely woken up by one bystander who accused him of sleeping with his feet pointing to the idol in the temple where he was sleeping in the compound. So the monk woke up, looked apologetic, and asked the bystander, "Where do you think I should sleep, and in which direction should I point my feet?" So the bystander gave him some instructions, and accordingly, the monk slept in this manner. Then the monk looked at the bystander and said, "My feet are pointing to a flower in a pot. Do you think the flower does not contain God?" So the bystander says, "I'm not so sure, but yes, you have a point. Maybe you should sleep in this direction." So he gave him another direction. So the monk changed his direction and slept like this. Then the monk looks at the bystander and says, "My feet are pointing to a dog. Do you think there is no God in that dog?" And the bystander had a very quizzical look on his face, but he had no answer. So again, the monk asked him, "Do you have any other suggestion?" So very reluctantly, the bystander gave him another direction, and the monk obliged. He changed. Then he looked at the bystander and says, "My feet are pointing to a number of people who are standing in a queue. Probably they want to enter the temple. Do you think there is no God in all those people who are standing in the queue?" The bystander realized that he was talking to an evolved soul. He prostrated himself in front of the monk, touched his feet, and said, "I'm sorry. I didn't realize. You are a very learned person and you seem to understand life." So the monk smiled and said, "God is everywhere. There is no place where I can sleep and my feet will not point towards God. The problem is we are not conscious of the presence of God everywhere." So, why am I telling a story? Because everything to do with life science, science about living, especially in ancient Indian text, is woven around a story. The principles, the rules, the laws of living are all hidden or embedded in some story which has been created so that the common man can understand from the story the hidden principle. In ancient India, the language used was Sanskrit, and in Sanskrit, the narratives were either in the form of mantras or shlokas or bhajans or scriptures. The underlying point is God is everywhere, and just so that people do not associate with the term God with any particular religion, let me clarify that God is pure energy, and this energy exists all over the universe, and Earth is a small, tiny speck in this entire universe. So let's look at some of the basics. It is necessary to note that human beings live at three levels. So we live at the physical level, which we say Sharirik, where it is a manifested form, it is a material form, it is a substance of the body. We live at the mental level, which is Manasik, and at the mental level, there are two layers. One is the intellectual layer, and the other is the emotional layer. So, one is logical, reasoning, deciding, and the other is feeling. And we say of the mind. And the third, which is a relatively less understood or known component, is the adhyatmic or the spiritual level. And it is considered to be of the soul, and every living being has a soul within. A lot of misconceptions about this terminology, SOUL, and some people believe in it, some people don't believe in it. The soul is in everyone, the soul is in everything, and it is of the whole. And the whole is, in common parlance, God or Paramatma or Parabrahma or whatever you call it in your religion. So, if we go by this logic that everything contains an element of this universal energy commonly understood as God, then we all are potentially God. And that is why the monk said that I'm pointing my feet in the direction of the people. So, is there no God in the people? There is God everywhere. And if God is everywhere, it is in you, in me, and in everybody. But our mind is not tuned to this truth. And that is the problem. Our mind is tuned to various subjects, and therefore we are unable to concentrate that everything is God. It is a manifestation of God. And as we say in Hindi, kan kan mein Bhagwan. Now let us look at the distribution of consciousness. When I say consciousness, it means awareness of our mind, each individual mind. So there are basically the four levels which I have described, or the three levels, and the middle level is divided into two, the intellectual and the emotional. So here are pictures of four human beings, and four human beings are just examples. So one guy has a lot of consciousness about the physical aspect of life. Another guy has a little lesser consciousness of the physical aspect of life. He has more consciousness or awareness of the intellectual part of life, the reasoning, the logic, the deductions, the answers. The third human being has an equal distribution of the physical, intellectual, and emotional aspect of life. And all these three individuals have a very insignificant consciousness of the spirituality or the energy component of every living creature. Now, if you consider billions of human beings occupying Earth, then this spread of distribution of consciousness will have various permutations and combinations. And it's quite unlikely that two human beings will have the same kind of spread. So the person which is shown as the fourth example, the fourth human being, who is highly tuned to his spiritual existence, we call such people evolved souls or Mahatmas or saints or whatever term you are familiar with. So we are living in a sea of human beings at different levels of awareness of life at different levels. So let us look at the person who is physically extremely aware. So such people are basically instead interested in their self preservation, in survival, which means they will be constantly thinking in terms of food, constantly thinking in terms of self protection, and constantly be thinking in terms of sex. So they are at a highly physical level of awareness. The slightly literate level will be also thinking of some education, some understanding, some calculation, some logic, some reasoning to get answers of things that are around him and which are puzzling. So he is more intellectual. The third example is of a person who is not only aware of his physical existence, but he's also aware of his intelligence and he's also aware of his emotions. So he is also connecting his intelligence and logic to an array of emotions, and they could be positive emotions or negative emotions. Positive emotion like love, and negative emotion like hate. And all these three people are very slightly aware of something called soul, prana, energy, God, some driving force that drives the entire universe. The fourth person, obviously, as you see depicted in the color schemes, has a very minimal awareness of his body and the bodily needs. He is intelligent but does not give too much value to his intelligence. He is emotional but does not give value to too much value to his emotions. In a way, you can say he is detached from these three levels and attached to the fourth level, which is the spiritual aspect, the energy aspect, the universal prana shakti component, and therefore we say he is highly evolved. So this is just to establish certain basics before I go into the subject proper. Now there are two terminologies, Gyan and Vigyan, knowledge and science. So what I know is my knowledge. But when I don't know the principles of my knowledge, then I am not scientific about my knowledge. Let me give you a very crude example. I know how to drive a car. So I know the steering, I know the clutch, I know the accelerator, I know the brake, I know the headlight lamps, I know the wiper, I know the horn. I know few controls that are available to me near my hands and my legs. But I do not know the mechanism by which the car works. So suppose my car stops on the road, then I don't know what to do by opening the bonnet, what corrections to make, what will make my car run again. So I don't know the science of the operation of the car. So I have the Gyan, the knowledge of driving a car, but I don't have the Vigyan or the science of automobile engineering. So this is the example which I've just given you about the car. Now let's take a bigger picture. I know mantras, I know shloks, I know artis, but I don't know the inner hidden meaning of the ritual that I perform when I chant these mantras, shloks, and artis. What are they supposed to do? What is the mechanism that makes my life regulated? Like the mechanism in the bonnet of the car regulates the functioning of the car when I touch some of the controls either with my hands or with my legs. Similarly, when I touch some of the controls with my mind or with my tongue or with my actions, as in performing an arti, what is the mechanism that I am triggering within my body and within the universe is unknown to me. So I don't know the science of life. I know about life. So I'm just establishing certain basics. That brings us to today's subject, which is Mantra Pushpanjali, especially in Maharashtra during the 10 days of Ganesh festival, starting with Ganesh Chaturthi. There is a practice of singing artis as a form of puja in the morning and in the evening. And the artis are culminated by the chanting of this mantra Pushpanjali. And many of us do it mechanically without really understanding what we are doing. Neither we understand the artis nor do we understand the mantra Pushpanjali. We know the mantra Pushpanjali. So we have the knowledge of mantra Pushpanjali, but we don't have the science of mantra Pushpanjali. So that is something which we will attempt to decode today, understand a little bit of the science. It's a huge science, so I'm sure that we will not be able to understand it fully. but a little more than we have understood it so far. And maybe when we practice the Mantra Pushpanjali next time, and some of us might be doing it every day, and some of us might be doing it during special puja days, we will probably do it with more enlightenment. So that's the objective of today's discourse. So let's look at mantra first before we go into the Mantra Pushpanjali. What is a mantra? So you have different mantras, and you have a mantra for food, Brahmarpanam, or Om Sahanavavatu. You have a mantra for house, Griha Pravesh mantra. You have a mantra for health, Dhanvantari mantra. You have a mantra for money, Lakshmi or Kuber mantra. You have a mantra for protection, Gayatri or Mahamrityunjay mantra. You have a mantra for knowledge, Saraswati mantra. And you have a mantra for peace, Shanti mantra. So what is mantra? So mantra is about the mind, man or manas, and the technique of focusing the mind on something, the tantra. The tra is the upakaran. In Sanskrit, tra is upakaran. Upakaran is an instrument. So the technique of focusing your mind on a particular aspect is what mantra is all about. Therefore, if you have a Dhanvantari mantra, you are focusing on health. Or you have a Lakshmi mantra, you are focusing your mind on money aspects. Mantra is the technique of tuning the mind to the divine. Ultimately, if you're talking of life, you're talking of the spiritual aspect or the spiritual level of your existence, and therefore you're talking of the prana shakti or the energy. So you are tuning your mind to the divine by practicing certain mantras with full concentration. The law is energy flows where attention goes. So, for example, I'm busy doing some office work and I'm writing some report, and I bend down to open a drawer and I suddenly feel a pain in my back. So immediately my attention shifts from the report writing to the pain in the back. So all my concentration has now diverted from the report writing to my back. So energy flows. So my energy is now diverted to where my attention has gone. So I've got a pain in the back. If I have a release spray handy, I will pick up the release spray and attempt to spray the area where I felt the pain. Am I writing the report at that time? No. Am I preparing for the report at that time? No. Where did my attention go? My attention went to the pain in the back, and therefore my energy was directed to reduce the pain. So this law applies to everybody. Energy flows where attention goes. That's why we get distracted. That's why we are not focused in our concentration. That's why some of us don't do well in exams, because our mind is scattered. We are not focused on the subject. Therefore, we don't fare well in the exams, or even at work. If our mind is diverted, scattered, then we don't deliver the results that are expected at the place of work. So mantra is a technique of tuning the mind to a particular subject. Here I have written in the bracket to the divine, but it could be any subject. Like you could be tuning your mind to the food that you're eating, or you could be tuning your mind to the favorite channel that you're watching on TV. Now let's come to Mantra Pushpanjali. It's a creative prayer. So what is a prayer? Prayer is an offering. Unlike in the Aarti where we clap hands, here we stand with folded hands or hands in the form of an offering. So you are holding something in your hand and about to offer. Again, man is mind and tantra is technique, and flower is pushpa or fool, and offering is anjali. So if you have to look at it from another point of view, it is mananat trayate. So mananat means in contemplation, trayate means liberation. So mantra is in contemplation, liberate your mind from various attachments. So the human mind is attached to various subjects. Simultaneously, I am attached to myself, my body, my physical health, my mental condition. Simultaneously, I am attached to my family, my wife, my children, my parents, my in-laws, my uncles and aunts, my friends, my relatives. I am attached to different subjects simultaneously. Whatever subject is uppermost in my mind is the subject I am dealing with at that point of time. So if I am dealing with money matters or bank matters, then that is the subject uppermost in my mind. I am attached to my money, I'm attached to my property, I'm attached to my future, I'm attached to several things simultaneously. So liberating from these attachments in contemplation on one particular subject is the mantra. So in management parlance, you will say the mantra for success, or you will say the mantra for discipline, the mantra for order. So management gurus also use this language, mantra. The technique of offering the fragrance of the flowers of my mind. What is the fragrance of the flowers of my mind? My thoughts. So if my thoughts are ugly, the fragrance is not there. It is a foul smelling odor. But if my thoughts are beautiful, then there is a fragrance of the flowers of my mind in total surrender. Who surrenders? A person who is humble, he surrenders. A person who is not humble, he has an inflated ego and he thinks that the world starts with him and ends with him. So, what is Pushpanjali? Pushpa and Anjali is the way I'm holding the flowers in my hand, ready to offer to whoever I consider as a superior being, or in common language, God. That's what is meant by Mantra Pushpanjali. Now let's look at the hidden meaning, because all ancient Indian text has a hidden meaning. So there is the text, then there is a story, and then people get lost in understanding the story, and then there is a hidden meaning for every human being. All ancient Indian spiritual text has a hidden meaning. Many mantras describe a standard operating procedure, and in modern language we call it SOP, to be followed by all human beings. And that is the difference between religion and spirituality. Spirituality talks of human beings, religion talks of a particular group of human beings. I belong to a particular religion, so I'm talking of that group of human beings who follow that particular religion. But here we are saying that all mantras written in ancient India are for every human being, whether you belong to religion X, Y, or Z, to attain their ultimate destination. So, what is the ultimate destination? Many people don't even know why they are born. The ultimate destination is to find your creator. Ultimate destination is to come back home. When you start out on a journey out of your house, you may be going temporarily to a particular destination, but your ultimate destination is returning home. You may be going to office every day in the morning, but you return home every evening. You may be going on a tour, on a business tour, to a different city, and you start out of your house on one particular morning, but maybe after a week you return home. So returning home is part and parcel of every human being's journey. Where did you start your journey? Somewhere in the universe, somewhere in a non-body form. Now you have acquired a body which is like a transit lounge, and you have to return home. So that is your ultimate destination, which in Indian parlance we call it moksha or nirvana, which is our duty, to come back home. Mantra Pushpanjali is one such SOP with deep meaning, giving guidance to all humans to realize their true nature, which is divinity, the third level, the spiritual level, not the physical level, not the mental level, because these are temporary. The physical existence perishes. Along with the physical, the identity perishes, so the mind perishes. I am Pravin Mankar perishes when Pravin Mankar perishes. So the physical and the mental component perish. What does not perish is the energy. Energy can never be created, nor can it be destroyed. It can only get converted. The prana energy in my body gets converted into other forms, which is a different subject and not the subject of today's discourse. Now let's look at the verses of Mantra Pushpanjali. And it's a very famous mantra which is chanted, especially in Mumbai and Maharashtra, after every Ganesh Aarti. So it goes like this. Om Yadnena Yadnyamayajanta Devastani Dharmani Prathamanyasan Tehanakam Mahimanah Sachanta Yatra Purve Sadhyaha Santi Devaha. Om Rajadhirajaya Prasayya Sahine Namo Vayam Vaishravanaya Kurmahe Same Kaman Kama Kamaya Mahiyam Kameshwaro Vaishravano Dadatu Kuberaya Vaishravanaya Maharajaya Namaha Om Swasti Samrajyam Bhaujyam Swarajyam Vairajyam Parameshtyam Rajyam Maharajya Madhipatyamyam Samantapariya Yisyat Sarvabhaumah Sarvavayu Antada Parardhartha Prithivya Samudra Pariyanta Ya Ekaraliti Tadapye Shashloko Bhigito Marutah Pariveshtaro Marutasya Vasangruhe Avikshatasya Kamapre Vishvedeva Sabhasad Iti. Now, most of us don't understand Sanskrit. So, all this is Sanskrit for us naturally. But we will say in English, it is all Greek and Latin because I don't understand this language. So, let us try and decode this so that we understand it from the life point of view. Then, after this Mantra Pushpanjali, depending on to which deity you are praying, there is an ending to this prayer. And suppose you are praying to Ganesh, then you end this by saying Om Ekadantaya Vidmahe Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Danti Prachodayat. If you are saying a prayer to Shankar Bhagwan, Mahadev, then you say Om Tat Purushaya Vidmahe Mahadevaya Dhimahi Tanno Rudraha Prachodayat. Om Anjaneyaya Vidmahe Vayuputraya Dhimahi Tanno Hanumat Prachodayata, so on and so forth. So you end the prayer depending on for what purpose you have done the puja or the arti. Now let's go shlok by shlok of the Mantra Pushpanjali. So the first one, Om Yadnena Yadnyamayajanta Devastani Dharmani Prathamanyasan Tehanakam Mahimanah Sachanta Yatra Purve Sadhyaha Santi Deva. So taking you back to the original basics where I said that everybody is God in human form. So whenever you and I are doing a puja or a ritual, it is God performing the ritual. Yajna, what is yajna? Yajna is fire, or yagya as the North Indians would say. Yagya is a fire and the worship which is in the form of an offering to the divine fire. So it comes from the Sanskrit verb called yaj, and that's why you have yajaman. The person who is performing the puja is known as yajaman. The guy who is performing the puja is yajaman because it comes from the verb yaj. Tani dharmani, it's your duty and it's your first duty to offer worship to the divine fire. Teha nakam, na akam. Akam is sorrow. Absence of sorrow is where? Only in heaven. Mahimanah sachanta, with greatness. Yatra purve, where before now people have reached that stage. So before me as a human being, there are other human beings who have already reached heaven or heavenly peace. So let me do the practices which will enable me to reach that exalted state where other souls have already reached. So we are potential gods and offering our first duty, which in Indian language is dharma, and dharma is not religion, dharma is duty, towards the divine to reach heaven and join the gods who are already there. And in life and breath and our science, we call them as celestial masters. Unfortunately, we human beings are so lost in our human pursuits and goals that we have never paid attention to this first duty or to our dharma. which is to return home. We are involved in our education, we are involved in our bodybuilding, we are involved in our day to day trifling troubles, our finances, our ambitions, our acquisitions, our properties, our relatives, our friends, our parties, our entertainment. Where is the time? I don't have the time to look at what is my duty as a human being. Then the next one. Om Rajadhirajaya Prasayya Sahine Namo Vayam Vaishravanaya Kurmahe Same Kaman Kama Kamaya Mahyam Kameshwaro Vaishravano Dadatu Kuberaya Vaishravanaya Maharajaya Namaha. So this is about whatever wealth you want to acquire. This is a prayer to Kuber. Now Kuber is a custodian of the warehouse of wealth. And why are we talking of wealth? Because each one of us is seeking some form of wealth. So somebody is seeking money, somebody is seeking properties, somebody is seeking knowledge, somebody is seeking peace, somebody is seeking good health, different aspects. But we are constantly seeking. And this particular shlok is saying, Rajadhi Rajaya. So the king of kings. So when you say king of kings, we are talking of the emperor. Prasaya Sahine, swiftly conquering. Now Vaishravanaya. So Vaishravanaya is Vaishrana, who is the father of Kuber. Now this is the story. So I am not going to spend too much time on the stories behind it. I'm going to come back to the inner hidden meaning. Kuber is the god of wealth. Vaishnava is the father. Kameshwara. So the god who satisfies all your kamanas, granter of all your wishes, all your desires. Dadatu means he fulfills, he gives. This is the God who fulfills all your desires. Now, when you are saying this prayer at the end of your artis or your puja, you are basically asking for some particular wealth. So this might be a very limited objective. You might be asking for your son to find a good employment. You might be asking for your own finances. You might be asking for good relationships with people around you. So whatever you are asking for is the wealth for you at that particular point of time. So if you're doing Graha Shanti, so you may be wanting, as you have entered a new house, you may be wanting that house to give you peace and harmony and not give you troubles. So there is always some desire behind the prayer that you are saying at the end of the pujan. We bow down to the celestial king Kuber because without wealth, you will never be comfortable. Even at the most basic level, without the money, you won't have food to eat, you won't have clothes to wear, you won't have a shelter over your head. So you will be struggling. So if you are struggling, where is the peace of mind to concentrate on something as abstract as spiritual development? So never discount your physical role because you are in a physical body. And for the physical body to be comfortable, you need the wealth. So we bow down to the celestial king Kuber, the lord of storage of wealth or the custodian, and the son of Vishrava, who is a learned or a well-read person capable of granting all wishes. Grant my wishes for wealth. Now, which wealth? That depends on you, at what stage you are, what is the mix of the colors in your current existence. Are you too much oriented towards the physical? Are you too much oriented towards the intellectual? Or are you a very emotional person? Or have you graduated to the spiritual level? So, depending on which level you are at, you will be asking for different types of wishes. Om Swasti Samrajyam Bhaujyam Swarajyam Vairajyam Parameshtham Rajyam Maharajyam Adhipatyam Ayam Samanta Parya Ishyat Sarvabhauma Sarvayusha Antada Parardhartha Prithuvye Samudra Paryanta Ya Ekaraliti. Now, this shlok or mantra is for the order of human community. Imagine, now do you look at today's scenario? So there are several places in the world where there is a lot of turmoil, war, strife, human beings are struggling to live on a day-to-day basis. No, we don't want a kingdom of that kind. We want our kingdom which should be swasti, where there is kalyan or good for everyone. It should be an empire. What is an empire? Empire is made up of several kingdoms, and the emperor, it's like the prime minister and the chief minister. So the prime minister is the emperor, and the chief ministers are kings of the state. And in the empire, every state or every kingdom has lot of things that provide satisfaction to the citizens of that samrajya. So there is plenty of food, there is plenty of water, there is plenty of employment opportunity, there is plenty of housing, there is plenty of transportation, there is plenty, everything is in plenty. Bhaujya, the things that we consume or enjoy. And that should be our kingdom, Swarajya. It should be a special place where people are selfless, where you don't need rules and regulations to regulate the behavior of people. Now, this you cannot talk of other people. This you can only talk of yourself. So here is a message for you, that if you want your life to be regulated, then you learn to live in order. Just because 10 people are breaking the red signal when you are stopping your car because the traffic light has turned red, you don't copy those 10 people who have broken the red signal and you follow suit. Then you are contributing to a Rajya where it is not good for everyone. Then you are contributing to a selfish Rajya and not a Vairajya, not a special Rajya. Parameshtam, kingdom in which there is consciousness that all are from the one Parmeshwar. Today, we are not concentrating on each one of us belonging to the same family of the same God. We have so many differences. We have differences of caste, we have differences in religion, we have differences in communities, we have differences in language, we have differences in states, we have differences in skin color, we have differences in continents. Everything is about differences, whereas this shlok is trying to tell us, see for the universality in everything. So the consciousness should be focused that all belong to the same Parmeshwar, the same Rajya. Maharajya, the greatest kingdom. When you talk of the greatest kingdom, there are no boundaries. So there is no boundary between India and Pakistan and Bangladesh and Nepal and China and Europe and America and so on and so forth. There is a boundaryless empire, the greatest kingdom. And control over such kingdom is self-imposed. There is no emperor or there is no ruler. Now, this may look or sound far-fetched because each one of us is pursuing through our upbringing and education and our cultural development to be selfish. So this appears to be something out of fiction, but this is not fiction because people talk of Ram Rajya. When you say Ram Rajya, this is what is expected in Ram Rajya, that everyone disciplines himself to live in order and to live selflessly. From where? From the limit of land, Prithvi, to the limit of the sea, Samudra. Samudra Paryanta. Prithivai Samudra Paryanta ya Ekaraliti. One common goal, selfless existence for the good of entire humanity. Stretching it further for the good of all living beings. When I say living beings, it includes all animals, birds, and fishes, and it also includes the plant kingdom. So, when I live for the good of all living beings, imagine the kind of land that you will be occupying. तदप्येष श्लोको भिगीतो मरुतः परिवेष्टारो मरुतस्या वसन गृहे आविक्षतस्य कामप्रे विश्वे देवा सभासदीति. Now here is a story. Now what is Marut? Marut is a group of storm gods, and Vayu is one of the storm god in the Marut category. And the son of Vayu is Hanuman, and the other name of Hanuman is Maruti. Now what is the significance of this? All of us breathe air, Vayu, Prana Vayu. And Vayu is in the atmosphere which engulfs the entire earth. So what is this shlok saying? Tat api esha shloka abhigita. This shlok is sung and is about Marut. Marut is the father of Vayu, or Marut is a group in which Vayu is one god, god of wind or the wind god, and the son of the wind god is Hanuman. Now, this may sound far fetched if we get lost in the story. Let us not get lost in the story, let us understand the meaning. Vayu is spread everywhere. When you learn pranayam and you take prana vayu, you're not only taking oxygen, you're also taking prana energy in your breathing. And when you breathe properly, you will notice that you are emotionally and mentally stable, intellectually and emotionally stable. For example, if you're attempting to write the answers in an exam paper and you suddenly find that you don't know the answer and you panic, if you quietly sit for 30 seconds, close your eyes and take one or two deep breaths, you will realize that your mind has become peaceful. You are able to focus on the question. You are able to logicalize the answer you should be writing, and the panic disappears. So there is a connection with regulated breathing and your emotions. Watch your emotions when you are angry. The emotion of anger is directly related to short, rapid breathing. Check it out. Whenever you feel angry, you see how you breathe. Your breathing is not uniform, your breathing is not regulated. Check out your breathing when you are afraid of something. Many a times you even hold your breath to a level of discomfort. Why? Because you are afraid. So all emotions are directly connected to breath. And we are now talking about this breath through this shlok, Marut and Vayu and Maruti, son of the wind god. Avikshit kama pre vishwe deva sabhasaditi. Now, this is connected to the previous two shloks, which is talking of yajna. Yajna is being performed as a offering to the fire, and wind is required to stoke the fire. So you are stoking the fire within your persona through regulated breathing, which is your offering to the divine by single pointed concentration. So this basically is the Pushpanjali, the fragrance of your mind which you are offering by regulating your mind, concentrating your mind through the breath, so that you become aware of your divinity and you offer the puja or the yajna to the fire that is burning inside you. There is fire burning inside you in the form of prana energy, and that's why your body temperature is a regulated temperature. When there is no prana energy inside you, the body temperature drops down, you become cold. So you are offering the fragrance of your mind, single pointed, focused on one subject, to the yajna, which is your life, which enables you to return home. Avikshit is the name of the king whose son is Marut. So this is the story, and I'm not going to deal with the story. But what is the significance? Marut is a good group of storm gods. Vayu is one such storm god, and son of Vayu is Maruti, also known as Hanuman. All universal gods participate in this yajna. Therefore, Sabhasad iti. Indra, who is regulating all the gods, he gives directions to the gods that participate in this yajna, which is being performed by Marut. This is the story part. But here, for each one of us, the hidden meaning is that we should participate in this yajna, the puja, the offering of our balanced, controlled, regulated mind, which we are able to do through the breath. And that is why in our program, Life and Breath, we teach you breathing exercises and we call them spiritual breathing exercises. We don't call them exercises for physical benefit. We don't call them physical training or PT. We call them spiritual breathing exercises. This is about breath, air, prana, energy, vibrations, and vibrations are universal. Now, let us take some guidance from this mantra. This mantra can be used for the individual, that means for me alone. This mantra can be used for my whole family, me, my wife, my children, my parents. I can use it for a family. This mantra can be used for the whole community. Now, my community could be my housing society in which I live, or it could be the suburb in which I live, or it could be the city in which I live. This mantra can be used as a guiding principle for the kingdom. In today's context, we will call the nation as a kingdom. So it can be applied all over India or all over Maharashtra. Then we talk of empires. Then all the countries in the continent of Asia could be an empire. And all the continents on the face of this earth could be an empire. The entire human kingdom could be an empire under the one king, and that one king is the prana energy, which everybody says God is one, but everybody fights about different gods. So, this in a sense is Mantra Pushpanjali. I hope that next time when you practice Mantra Pushpanjali, you will have this slight understanding about what we are dealing with instead of doing a mechanically ritualistic chanting of some mantra which is not also pronounced properly. So, my request to all of you, please read this mantra. There are translations available on Google. You can read the mantra, you can see the translation. Don't get lost in the story. Understand that this is about you. Because if I correct myself, and if every human being takes a vow that I must correct myself, eventually you will end up with a world with the entire empire of human beings in an exalted, peaceful, happy state of mind. Thank you for attending this, and I hope you will benefit from this. Take care. Namaskar.